Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and this is my On the Tube episode 3. Now this is for the week ending today, is the 22nd of March, and I've quite the list honestly to talk about, spending a lot more time at home watching things because, can't really go anywhere. So thinking about all the different shows that I watched over the past week, I started off by looking at the new limited series on Amazon of Agatha Christie's The Pale Horse, which, to be fair, not sure why it's a mini, it's 2 hours combined, the 2 episodes, so I'm like, why is this not just a TV movie? Why is this not just an Amazon movie? But anyway, it's an interesting, creepy kind of mystery from Agatha Christie. You would expect some strong mystery coming from one of her stories, and it deals with classism and these strange perceptions of different people, and there's like witches and stuff like that. Or are they witches? You don't know. You're going to find out. And it's really anchored around a central performance from Rufus Sewell, who is a really strong actor, and I can see he's popping up on more and more Amazon things because of Man in the High Castle. But he does a really great job in this show. It's directed well. It's an interesting story. And for 2 hours, it's a pretty easy watch, and it keeps you on your toes and some twists and turns. And it's like, will you be surprised by the ending? I don't know. It really depends on how well you are keeping up with things when watching a mystery. But it's like a good old-fashioned kind of mystery. It feels like an Agatha Christie type story. So if you're into those murder mystery kinds of things, this is definitely up your alley. This is on Amazon Prime. Now, I started watching the show Letterkenny with my brother, and this show is ridiculous, and it's so quirky and weird, and just the delivery, how dry everything is, and the banter between our three main characters, which they're played by Jared Kiso. He's the main character. He's the creative force behind this show, and he's so great as this like big burly kind of tough guy, but like humble about it tough guy. And K. Trevor Wilson is definitely my favorite. He's the big guy in the overalls, and like just some of the stuff that he says are completely ridiculous. Not all of the groups of characters I really enjoy. Like there's like these emo type characters, and they do some really obnoxious movie references, and I get a kick out of them. There's a whole entire thing about The Social Network, which is, it's funny because everybody else in the scene didn't get what they're trying to do, but it's like, having seen The Social Network, I know exactly what's going on. And there's these two idiot hockey players that are so goofy, and just how all these characters banter back and forth. There's no boundaries on what kind of humor they go for. But the thing is, it's like, it hits some good beats of, it's like, I care about these characters. And then there's also talking about a ginger guy having sex with an ostrich, and how many people it takes to have sex with an ostrich. Because that's the thing in this show. Canadian, I guess. It's just this really offbeat, dry humor, and the first season's like 6 episodes, and they're like 20-something minutes apiece. It's really digestible, it's just silly, and I really enjoyed it. Now, continuing my anime watching, as more recently over the past couple years, started watching One Punch Man, and yes, he knocks out, kills things in one punch, and that gimmick is pretty entertaining, honestly, and there's some really cool action sequences in this show. I watched the subbed version on Netflix. I didn't realize there was a dubbed version on Hulu. Not gonna lie, I probably would have watched the dubbed version. A lot of times I'm watching things while I'm doing some things while watching TV, so I try to steer clear of subtitles when I can, just because of that. But it's a really interesting, weird show, as most anime are, especially something like this, where it's just like, there's this hero, one punch, things explode, and that's the gist of the show. And it builds and builds and builds to this crazy payoff of a really awesome finale. Like I said, the best part of this is the really cool action and the weird offbeat characters that you meet along the way, especially the lead, our One Punch Man. And honestly, it's a pretty cool show. It's 12 episodes, they're 20-something minutes apiece, so it's not like an anime where it's like here's 60 episodes, here's 80 episodes, or hundreds of episodes. It already has a second season, looking at a third season. They're like 12 episodes apiece, so I think it's worth giving it a shot. Now for something I'm really excited to talk about, because I had been talking about this on a weekly basis when I was doing the week in review, but now with On the Tube, I'm just waiting until I'm done a show. Avenue 5. I love Armando Iannucci, his work with Death of Stalin, In the Loop. I haven't seen Veep yet, but I do want to watch that. His upcoming film, The Personal History of David Copperfield. But then you have Avenue 5, which this luxury space liner gets caught in space. And the first couple episodes, I'm like, this is really funny, easily digestible, just weird, goofy, sarcastic humor. I dig it. I don't love it, but I dig it. Hugh Laurie is great. He's my MVP of this show. I love Hugh Laurie, and he's so great in this show. So Zach Woods from like The Office. Oh my god, the shit that he does in this show is ridiculous, and he is a surprisingly great character, and I love Josh Gad in this. The role he's playing is so smug and just so borderline idiotic that he really captures that so well. And there's a lot of great performances in this show. It's a great cast, like Andy Buckley, who's David Wallace from The Office is in this, and he's like this cuckold guy, and his wife is really overbearing, and she's great in it. But the thing is, halfway through this season, there's a particular episode, and it has to do with excrements in space. And something flips. It gets a lot more real. It gets a lot more manic. And it gets a lot funnier and moving and deeper and penetrating. This show gets dark. And like similar to Death of Stalin, which was in my top 5 of the year that Death of Stalin came out in theaters, this show takes a turn to the point where it's like, and the stuff that's going on Earth the first half of the season is not nearly as interesting as what's going on up in space. So when those storylines kind of converge, it makes it a little easier to digest. Like, I understand why they have to keep going back to Earth to keep it grounded, literally, I guess. But this show takes off in the second half, and there's some dark turns. There's some crazy stuff that goes on, and it just gets this manic momentum that just engrosses you. I'm like, crap, I can't wait another week. I want to see this next episode. And the season finale was bonkers, and I absolutely loved Avenue 5. I can't wait to see what the new season brings. Now, here's an interesting docuseries called McMillions. I remember playing those Monopoly McDonald's games. I remember going to McDonald's, getting my pieces, really playing. I used to eat McDonald's a lot growing up, so that was a big thing. And how this documentary starts off is really, really funny. And dealing with the secret agents, there's the government agents, there's one particular FBI agent in this show who I absolutely love. He is the MVP of this series because he's just so ridiculous and just like, there's like one point that really captures his energy is he chases down a guy who stole a big check. Check's not real. Doesn't do anything, but he's like, it's a principle of the thing. Chases this guy down the beach and tackles him. And just like, yeah, this guy's ridiculous. And then it turns. This gets really dark and emotional and heavy, and you really see the gravity of what really happened with the mob getting involved in this and all the people that got hurt during this. And I'm like, crap, this documentary hit hard. And I was not expecting that, and I was really impressed by this documentary. There's some times where it's trying to balance back and forth between the heavy and the lighter nature of how the documentary is set up. It might be a little jarring, but like, this is a powerful documentary. I was really impressed by this series. You go, HBO. You're on a roll. So over the past week or so, I watched all of the first 2 seasons of Ozark. And my friend Mr. Matt Williams, who pops in on Welcome to the Wasteland, really suggested this show to me. Highly recommended it. Finally watched it. And I'm really impressed by this show. Like, I'm not going to say this is like a top tier favorite like crime dramas on television. But first of all, Jason Bateman, his direction and his acting keep me hooked on this show. I absolutely love the work that he brings to the show, and even more impressively, Laura Linney, as the show goes on, who really hits hard, and her performance is great, and the dynamic between the two of them, and especially the second season takes the two of them, and where the second season leaves you, because there's a week left, less than a week left. The third season comes out this Friday, so I was getting ready for it. And the performances are so great. Julia Gardner is a real MVP of this show. And she plays this young woman, Ruth, who's from this skeezy kind of family with a reputation in the area. And she gets a lot to deal with, a lot to work with, and she brings it. And like Peter Mullen, who I'm a huge fan of, I love his character actor work. And he's really great as this this rancher guy who has like heroin ranch. Not all the subplots work. Also, some of them are problematic. One of them didn't really sit well with me, especially this one particular FBI agent. A lot of the stuff with him didn't really sit well with me, but there's a lot of great tension in a lot of scenes. There's some really great chemistry with some of the actors, and there's one particular relationship between Jason Bateman's character and the woman who runs the bar that he becomes the proprietor of. Their relationship's so complex and interesting. There's a lot of complexities in this show, complex relationships, but there's also a lot going on, and it's hard to balance everything. And in the end, like, some of that takes away for it. Harris Yulin, who plays Buddy, this guy that they own the house that he's living in, and he lives in their basement now. He's great every scene he's in. He's a great addition to this show. These 2 seasons are really awesome. I really, really appreciate the show. I'm looking forward to the 3rd season starting. Now, this is a show probably most people wouldn't expect me to really enjoy, but Diary of a Future President on Disney+. There's so much charm to this, and Gina Rodriguez is involved in this show, and this tells a story of a young woman who someday is going to be the first female president. And she's a young Latinx girl living in Florida and growing up and dealing with coming of age things. Obviously, there's some cliches, there's some standard affair kind of stuff, but like they go deep and meaningful but funny. There's a lot of charm to this show, and Tess Romero, who plays our main character, she's great. And her character is great. She's not someone that's just going to annoy you all the time. You appreciate where she's coming from and the lessons that she learns. And Charlie Bushnell plays her brother, who goes through some complex plot points throughout this first season, and I wasn't really expecting that either. And he has an internal conflict with how his feelings are towards one of his guy friends. And I was impressed the show went there. And then Salinas Leyva, who plays the mom in this show, has a lot of complex feelings to deal with, trying to get past her husband who passed away and starting this new relationship with Sam, played by Michael Weaver, who, like, Michael Weaver's character in this is such a dad. Totally me. I would be that character in this show, so I really appreciate his character, and they deal with things in a very mature way, in an interesting way. I was really surprised by this show. I highly recommend this, something for the whole family to enjoy. And now the last one that I'm going to talk about. I absolutely loved Feel Good. I took a chance watching this on Netflix. I'm like, I've never heard of this. Just see this. And it's about Mae Martin, who plays an exaggerated version of herself. She's this Canadian comedian, and she's living in London, and she's a lesbian and falls in love with George, played by Charlotte Ritchie. And their budding relationship, their chemistry, the first couple episodes are so quirky and funny and relatable in terms of them dealing with relationships, and George trying to get past the fact where it's like this is the first woman she's dated, and trying to come out to her friends and the conflict that causes, and then finding out May is a former drug addict and dealing with being an addict and what you can really be addicted to, and all these different kinds of things. And this show floored me. I don't interact audibly with TV and movies a whole lot, but I was being heartbroken and frustrated by what was going on in the show, and trying to speak to these characters because I felt for them so much. These 6 episodes, which this is just 6 episodes, like 24 minutes apiece, grabbed me, held me tight. And I was there for their ups and downs. What's going to happen to their relationship? Is May going to be able to, like, her career launch as a comedian? Is she going to be able to balance these addictive personality traits that she has? And really pulling for their relationship. And I'm like, geez, I love this show. And I really hope you all check out Feel Good. And I really, really enjoyed it a lot. It's definitely an adult show. There's nudity and sex and drugs and all kinds of stuff like that. But this is a really moving and powerful show. I absolutely loved it. So that's my On the Tube for this week. There was a lot here. There's like 8 different shows to talk about. So if there's any of them, comment below. Let's talk some TV. And thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.